What's up guys, my name is Jake. It's been a few years since my video on the now infamous Rolling Acres Mall came out. I left off with the mall in sort of a limbo state, with its future uncertain and its new potential owner in the hands of an auction. So today I wanted to take a few minutes to look at everything that has happened since then and give you an update on one of my favorite abandoned malls in the world. This is the 2019 update for the Rolling Acres Mall in Akron, Ohio. I left off with the property being put up for a sheriff auction in June of 2016. However, the mall continued to see not a single bidder. Premier Ventures, the company which technically owned the property, had racked up over $1.2 million of unpaid fees for the site. This required the auction to start at $1.2 million and accept bids anything above. However, of course, no one did. This left Rolling Acres ownership defaulting to the city of Akron. Now, of course, they didn't want to keep the structure, which has continuously been a place for illegal activity to fester. And even before their ownership, they had expressed interest to demolish the property. So that's exactly what they intended to do. So by October of 2016, the city of Akron, Ohio set out to begin demolition on the once thriving mall. This project had set to demolish just the interior of the mall, however leaving the remaining anchor spaces except for JCPenney still standing. While the site remained unknown as to who would utilize the potential land, the already leased former anchor stores were bringing in revenue and intended to be left standing. Demo crews began on the northwest side of the mall by the former Sears, and slowly worked their way through the interior of the mall. From the ground though, it seemed as though nothing had been happening, since they had intentionally left the exterior walls still standing while they tore out the interior. Eventually, by summer of 2017, most of Rolling Acres Mall had been demolished, leaving just a small section of the escalators and entrance to Macy's. The former Sears and Target were also left standing, as those spaces still had active leases, one being a recycling plant and the other being a storage facility. The Macy's store, however, I don't think had any businesses in it. It had always been very secure, and I assumed it was owned by a third party. Work sort of just stopped around this time and didn't really pick back up until 2018, when most of the original flooring and remaining interior of the mall had been cleaned up and almost removed entirely. Stone and soil were brought in to somewhat smooth out the elevation difference, and this is around the time when I visited the former mall for the first time, in July of 2018. Remember how I said in the last video that I always wanted to see Rolling Acres? Well, I missed it by a few years, but in some form I did get to see the abandoned mall. All that was left was some structural supports where the escalators to Macy's were, some of the former roof, and interestingly, one of the original former mall entrances. Almost as if nothing had happened on the other side. In the former chandelier area, it's a ghostly reminder of what was, with the original flooring and now just pools of standing water where the escalators began to ascend. It was pretty incredible to stand there and think what it would have looked like just 15 years before. Thankfully, a channel by the name of Mallwalkers uploaded a really interesting video that shows just that. A look inside and out of Rolling Acres Mall in January of 2003. Supposedly, the channel said they found this video on a cassette tape amongst the rubble of the demolished mall. The way the video was filmed almost appeared as a comprehensive overview of the property for potential buyers, or perhaps it was some mall employee who was interested in preserving video on how the iconic mall looked. But regardless of the intended purpose, that's exactly what it did. The video shows the mall in a rare state when it had all 5 anchor stores open. It was only 3 years later that the first anchor store had left the mall. However, throughout, it's sort of clear even at this point, Rolling Acres didn't seem all that busy. Even in 2003, many signs pointed to the impending decline, with discount, non-brand name stores popping up, some not even retail related, and even the main water fountain not operating. However, it really is bizarre to see the mall with open businesses and even working escalators. After you see pictures and videos of the mall in its abandoned state for so long, the idea of a thriving retail center seems so far removed from the state it had been in. And even now, standing there, it looks like an entirely different world. And in some ways, I guess it is. So that brings us to 2019, with grass now growing where the thriving mall once stood. What is the future for the Rolling Acres sites and the last remaining anchor buildings? Well, over the summer of 2018, the city of Akron approved an unnamed new developer to build their own facility on the plot of land, promising at least 500 new jobs and $30 million in payroll. With just approval, no concrete plans were ever announced, leaving the future still unknown. However, in January of 2019, work began with clearing the site even further with the demolition of the former Macy's anchor store. This left around 40 acres of buildable land with enough room to build whatever a developer may choose. And a month later in February, actual site plans and blueprints were leaked showing the former mall will now be home to the most ironic of facilities, an Amazon distribution center. While these dates are subject to change, the Amazon facility is expected to begin construction in September of 2019 and conclude in May of 2020. According to the Akron Beacon Journal, the fulfillment center is expected to house close to 700,000 square feet, able to service 58 loading docks, and most importantly, employ 1,700 Akron locals. While at the time of writing this, Amazon still hasn't confirmed if this was true or not, there is a ton of evidence that points to that being the case. And while it may seem very ironic that Amazon, of all companies, is planning to build a warehouse on the site of a former mall, it's actually pretty common, especially in Ohio. In Cleveland, when the Euclid Square Mall had closed, Amazon moved in and announced plans to build on the former site. And as another update to a mall I have covered in the past, the Randall Park Mall, not too far away, had almost all of its property purchased by Amazon, and to where a brand new fulfillment center is currently operating. Actually, when I visited Rolling Acres, Dan and I took a look at the current situation with Randall Park Mall, and honestly it was quite a shock to see just how much that area has turned around. Mostly, I suspect due to Amazon coming in the area, inadvertently revitalizing everything around it. And honestly, I think it's very possible to see the same thing happen in this area, which really is great news for the surrounding community. So this finally marks the conclusion of the Rolling Acres story. Obviously that land was eventually going to be used by someone, and I'm sure it's the perfect size for a good price. The only question was who it was going to be. So now, if Amazon really does end up building a fulfillment center on the land, it'll yet be another great example of how old retail is quite literally being replaced by the new. The once thriving epicenter of consumer retail was in part killed by the very company who will now build on top of its grave. Thanks for watching this quick update video, everyone. I figured because so much has happened to the mall, now would be a great time to update all of you on what has happened. As I continue to grow the channel and create more videos with higher quality and more efficiently, if you're interested in showing further support for the videos and the channel, Patreon is the best place to do that. A link will be in the description below. Anyway guys, my name is Jake, and thank you very much for watching.